Good morning, Canada. Oh my God, it's so exciting. It's such a good day. It's Monday, March 31st over here in the Kingdom on my way to the gym. I've just started an April month of that I'm calling boot camp for my supermodel. Um, and so I write three stories at the moment: wealth, justice, and I'll put this video under the category of wealth, justice, and vote Canada. I've been writing stories about voting in Canada. Edible Planet, supermodel. So I'll be writing those four stories for the next month or so. Okay, such good news under my Vote Canada series. Listen to this. It looks like the Carnage has quit as leader, installed, rigged leader of the Liberal Party. I just saw something on, whose page was it? Thrive Wanderer on Instagram, that there's an emergency meeting at 11 o'clock this morning Eastern time, so Ottawa time. So that'll be 4 p.m. over here in the Kingdom, 8 a.m. in British Columbia. Emergency meeting to reinstall a new puppet as the head of the Liberal Party because Carnage is doing so badly. Now, I called this over a week ago. I said, he's going to quit. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Susan Stanfield. I started the No More Lockdowns protest movement on April 7th, put out a yellow flyer all over Facebook that just went viral because I was connected to a very big national yellow vest group. I didn't know I was connected to them, but anyway, it's a long story. It's all history. And my first protest on April 12, 2020 at Vancouver City Hall got 4 million views in 2 days. And I'm like a nobody, right? People know who I am now, but at the time, I was hoping a few thousand people would see my video. 4 million people in 2 days. And I was hit. I got hit pieces in 3 countries, different newspapers, media outlets. Murdoch's papers, Vice, UK Sun, and all the classic ones, because they were instructed to take down the freedom, anybody who challenged COVID, right? It was a big racket and everybody knows about that. So I have documented the evidence of this for 5 years on my Facebook page, which is it's a monster. My Facebook page is what's it like? It's like an anaconda. It's like a self-reproducing, viral monster. There must be over 20,000 posts on my Facebook page. And I do that as a public service for the world, basically. I'm professionally trained to document human rights abuses and crime, essentially. I've even been paid to investigate crime in London. So anything you want to find from the past 5 years, just put it in this, go to my Facebook page, go to Susan Stanfield on Facebook, go into the search bar in the top left corner and enter something. Enter one of the scams or the crimes like Arrive Can, Mark Garneau, Hotel Prisons, masking, Build Back Better, the banksters, Ukraine, anything that you know has been a racket since 2019, 2020, when the banksters dropped all of this Build Back Better. You will find stories about it on my page, and that's why I do it, right? I don't put so much on my Facebook page because I'm hey, I'm super, I want to be popular. Right? Because it did happen. I became very popular with, people who have bloody common sense, but I put them there as documentation. It's called témoignage. I was trained in témoignage in Brussels, which has got to be one of the most kind of wholly corrupt cities in the world. It's where the banksters hang out. It's, places like Brussels is where people like Mark Carney and stuff have all their really important meetings so they can control the rest of us. And I come from this world. I come from the Canadian establishment. I went to Queen's, which is the top university. I grew up in a very wealthy part of the country. All of my friends and family, really good people, right? But I come from the establishment. My oldest friend in the world, hosted Justin Trudeau to have a press conference in their home. I'm like, oh my God, I saw this on the news. And I was like, who could it be? The oldest friend I have in the world, Trudeau's in their house. So I come from that world, and me speaking out and the carnage that has resulted in my personal life was because I essentially defected. I defected from the establishment saying, this is immoral. This is wrong. We can't do this to the Canadian people. I wasn't engaged at all politically, but mostly it was because I was living outside the country. Most of my adult life, I've been living as an expatriate in other countries. And so when I was back in Canada in 2018, 2019, I was like, what's going on here? Everything is so corrupt. I was threatened to be put into jail by the public health officer in British Columbia and the lieutenant governor and the minister of agriculture. And I'm like, excuse me? I grew up in the 70s and 80s. What is going on? And so I started really paying attention, and then boom, they dropped the pandemic. And I'm a TV producer too. And I'm like, whoa, is this ever fraud? So good news is it looks like Carnage is quitting. So I called this over a week ago. I was like, there's no way this guy is going to survive, because as someone who comes from the establishment, the posh part of the country, I know how Carnage lives. I know what his reality is like. And there's probably many components of his life and his family and his children, and like, leave them alone or whatever. Like the poor, they're probably all like, Dad, we never wanted you to do this, because now they're all implied in these crimes, right? Is rule number one, when you're rigging the game in the establishment, in the elite, you never let people know who you are, right? You stay in the shadows. And this is how the Canadian establishment is able to kind of control the economy, especially out of Quebec, steal all the money through taxation, and bankrupt all of us for decades and decades, is they lurk in the shadows and nobody really knows who they are, right? People like, say, Frank McKenna, that's now been exposed to be running, what was the TD, and like the billions of dollars of price fixing or antitrust crimes or whatever. So this is the establishment, right? This is how it works. And Peter C. Newman was, I believe, the fellow, he's the author, Peter C. Newman, I think he's gone, who coined the phrase, the Canadian establishment. This is who runs our country. And this is how all these countries are run, by the establishment elite. So Carnage is in that. And I was like, he's not going to make it. Like, it was so wrong that he even tried, because the carnage to his own reputation, to his own life, like his poor wife and child, the trans child, is all I can say, because these people, the posh elite establishment people, they can't survive these tests. They can't survive the test of public opinion, because the credibility of how they live their life, like for the people and fairly and stuff, is so thin. Like there's no credibility. And the moment Carnage was installed, the attacks began. And I was just waiting for the FUCK Carnage banners on the highways. And sure enough, they were there just every day. Like, establishment media are going after him. And I was like, it's only a matter of days until this guy quits. There's no way he's going to make it the whole way. Like, why would somebody sacrifice their personal life so badly? The poor trans child, like, just leave her alone, right? And so the rumor is that he has quit. And so there's two things about this. One is, okay, what are they going to do? They've already prorogued Parliament. What are they going to just turn off all the electricity? Like, what are they going to do to us, right? Because the Liberals will continue to try and rig this. Are they going to bring back Ruby Dalla? They got rid of her because she was the real, authentic new leader of the Liberal Party. I gotta get my hair done. Are they going to bring back Ruby Dalla? Are they going to, what are they going to do? It's going to be really interesting. Who are they going to put in the next puppet seat? So I said this as soon as a Cardi started showing up as the leadership was. I was like, he's our Kamala. He's the equivalent of our Kamala, right? They've got the music and, the polling and Mike Myers and the celebrity and Canada Strong, or elbows up, whatever the hell that means. And I'm like, this is like watching Kamala Harris. It's going to go down in flames. This whole thing is going to completely implode. So the question and the negative is, what fresh hell are they going to throw on us in Canada and over here? And I'm still very much Canadian. But the good news is, the fantastic news, why I'm so happy, is this is a result of the fact that our freedom movement, the convoy, the lockdowns, the things that I helped ignite, that millions of Canadians have been fighting for 2 years, we are now the establishment. Like, we are now the main power base. We have real power. We were able to get rid of a fake, lying leader in less than 2 weeks? That is real power. We actually have institutionalized power now. And I knew that when we started our movement, it was going to take like 5 years to rebuild society, to rebuild popular culture, to authentically shift the power base from one part of society to another. So now it's getting firmly entrenched into the hands of the working class in Canada, but like normal common sense working class. It's not like we don't want to start communism. We're not like fighting for labor rights everywhere. It's just it's the typical common sense working middle class Canadian families. Some of us have more money than others, but we're all kind of in that same segment of just do what's right. Like, just do what is normal, so we can all like go to the hockey game and, get our kids to school on time and have some money for maybe go to like Disneyland once in our lifetimes. So we have this power back, right? And it's you can see it in so many ways. So here's a few examples. even someone like me, here I am like in my car in England making videos, right? I'm nobody. Like a lot of people know who I am, but I don't have real media power. I don't make money at this, and I'm not paid by somebody. I don't have regular broadcasts and stuff. I did a post about Carnage a week ago. 90,000 people saw it. Like, that's huge. That's real power. And I'm just sitting here in my car. So that's one example. The mainstream media, like Rosemary Barton and all these, and Stephanie, look, Stephanie, in his patronizing way. The legacy media is even, now they've stepped back into our side. Arlene Dickinson, and you may like Arlene or not, I don't know. I have reverence and kudos to all of these, individuals, Canadians who have worked very hard over the past 30 to 40 years in whatever profession they were in. Arlene is speaking out, and I don't know exactly what her politics are, but she's put a foot back over on our side. So there's aspects of the media, there's aspects of other industries. You can see in the political parties, the number of people that are running. So many people are just running now. Like, I'm going to run. Who's it? RB Ham announced he's running. So when we started the movement in 2020, I remember a lot of us talking about, okay, we're going to have new elected leaders. We're going to have to rebuild everything, right? It's the Buckminster Fuller thing. We're going to have to rebuild the media. We're going to have to rebuild political parties. We're going to have to rebuild industries. We're going to have to rebuild education. We're going to have to rebuild transport, to get this ridiculous, heinous stuff out of the airports that's putting us under surveillance. That would be a great campaign, actually, is to get those cancer-inducing scanners out of the terminals. I guess they're probably international. Yeah, hopefully they're only international terminals. And we all knew, I was like, this is going to take a decade, man. This is going to take 20 years to actually change, to break down corrupt institutional Canadian establishment power and then redistribute that power equally and fairly across the country to those Canadians who were willing to step up and take a lead of change. And that has been historically a very small group of people, like 3 to 7% of the people, because most people are like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to yoga. This is so corrupt. I'm just going to hope that I wake up in the morning and everything's better. Most people don't do anything, right? And we know that. And so people like me are the ones that constantly get like rocks thrown at our heads, screaming for 5 years, pay attention, vote. So this is such a good day. Okay. The fact that we booted him out, if this is really happening, press conference today at 11 o'clock, Carnage is out. The Carnage is just too bad. He's just bringing down so much of the establishment that they know that he's a loser, right, for them. He is a loser candidate for the Liberal Party. Thanks to, in part, well, mostly all of us. All of us. This is a fantastic day to celebrate. This isn't some fringe, far right conspiracy theory. This is real institutional power that we now have as freedom fighters in Canada, and it's only going to grow. If the Conservatives get in, wait for 4 more years of what's building. You watch what's going on down in the States, and like Trump or don't like Trump, his policies. I certainly don't like all his policies, but what is happening to their economy is fantastic, and that could happen to ours too. So I think this is a fantastic day to celebrate. For all of the freedom fighters, please share this video. Please share any posts. Go to Thrive Family Wanderer. She's one of these homesteading awesome chicks. I'm sure it'll go viral all through today, the 31st. Is today the 31st? Yeah, the 31st of March. The election is only 28 days away. So they've got exactly 4 weeks to reinstall a new puppet leader and see if Canadians are going to buy it. Who are they going to buy? I bet you what they'll do is they'll convince Jagmeet. Maybe that's what they'll do. They'll go, come on, Jagmeet, you got to cross the floor and join the Liberals. You be our leader. Who would they choose? Who on earth would they choose? I bet maybe a brown woman. That's what politically, that's so politically incorrect to say. That's if I was their strategist, I was like, we got to get a brown woman and we got to get some freedom color back into this. But I think it's too late. I think it's way too late. It's too big to rig. Mark Carney was our Kamala Harris, and even though she made it to the finish line and lost, Carney didn't even make it, right? If he's quitting, he got out of the game, and I can only hope that his family was a part of this, that his wife and daughter living in New York are like, this, the price is too high. The price is too high for our family for you to continue doing this. And like all establishment people, the elite, posh, small group of people that run the world, there's 2 things that they're afraid of, and this is how you take them down. One is some sort of financial hit. Like even like $1,000 like makes them cringe, right? They do not want any kind of financial threats on their institution. So we've been successfully doing that, exposing what Brookfield has been up to. Brookfield is actually in the process of trying to buy the state energy, what's it called again? Infernal or something. The state energy company from Germany. German state energy company, Mark Carney's company, is trying to buy it. So the Prime Minister of Canada would be the chairman and part owner and shareholder of the state energy company of Germany. This is how deep and corrupt it is. So all of our pension money that gets hoovered out of the pension plans and put into companies like Brookfield so they can ship it offshore and acquire things for the shareholders and make money, including for the CEOs of these pension funds, would then go to purchase the state energy company of a foreign country in Europe. And that's Mark Carney's whole thing is, oh no, we're going to be doing business with Europe. Can you imagine if we actually let this guy get in and he re-rigged the economy so we start trading with Europe, and what a disaster that would become at the expense of the United States. It is so good, if this news is true, that he is out. And I can't wait for the press coverage on this. I can't wait for what Paul Revere is going to say. I can't wait for what sort of announcement will be made out of the Liberal Party. And hopefully Katie Telford will like finally quit and go retire in the Caribbean or something, because what a disaster this is for her. The poor woman, like, I can't even imagine what her thyroid measurements are, right? She's probably going to have cardiac arrest because of this. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, finally, one more thing. You'll see I've been writing stories called Vote Canada. I will continue to write them. If you don't know the basics of voting in Canada, the first thing you do is find out what is the name of your riding where you live. Like, this is like 101. This is why a magazine is needed, and I'll tell you about that before I finish off. The country is divided into 338 ridings, right? And all of those ridings have a name. So I lived in Vancouver Quadra or Point Grey, whatever. They keep changing the name. Maybe it's still Quadra. The kind of the rich west side of Vancouver. I grew up there and lived there as an adult a few times as well. So my riding was always run by Joyce Murray, who was a Liberal. And in the old days, it was like, okay, Liberal, whatever. Now we have a Conservative guy who's a candidate. I don't know who the previous Conservative candidate was, how long it's been since we had one. Like, this is where Gordon Campbell lived and all that, his riding. So John Turner was my member of parliament in Shaughnessy. So Joyce is obviously quitting and leaving because she's older and like, please just go away, anybody in the Liberal Party. And so this really cool guy who ran like the community movie theater and stuff, he's running as our Conservative leader, Conservative candidate in my riding of Vancouver Quadra, Point Grey, whatever it's called federally. And David Eby is my member of the Legislative Assembly provincially in that same riding. Another horror, right? Living it's so bizarre to have grown up and lived in like the one of the richest neighborhoods in Canada, and the communists represent us, right? All these like super rich people who don't believe in any of these kind of like policies live in these neighborhoods that are controlled by communists. Anyway, that's a whole other video. So ascertain what is your riding, what is the name of your riding, and who will be the Conservative candidate for your riding if you're not already living in a Conservative riding. So chances are, if you're living in an urban center, you have a Liberal member of parliament. So find out who the Conservative member of parliament is. Another way you can do that is you go to the Conservative Party website, and I don't think I found mine there. They should have 338 candidates. They should have a candidate in all 338 ridings. And if they don't, call Pierre Paul Revere and ask him why not, because Maxime Bernier figured out how to do that. It's all software. Find out who the Conservative candidate is and go and meet them. I'm not saying just go vote for them. Say, listen, hey, I'd like to come to one of the things you're speaking at, or I'd like to volunteer. Get to know them, right? Like, who are they? What do they believe in? They're holding the Conservative sign. They're going to represent you in Ottawa and your interests. What exactly do they plan to do? So don't just vote for them because they're Conservative. That might be what you want to do, and that's fine. Whatever, just let's get rid of this red wave of communism. But get to know who they are. Right? And maybe volunteer with them, maybe like stick with them for 4 years and stay engaged, learn about politics. This is one of the greatest hacks, is to actually get involved in the political system as some sort of a volunteer, and learn how it works. And maybe one day you will become that person that decides to run, right? So many people are running. I think Tamara Leach will run federally, R.B. Ham, who else? James Davison in BC. I think he was running provincially. This is the next part of the institutional power, right? Is that oh God, I could just make this video for so long because I've seen this, I've studied this for almost 30 years. So now that we're able to get rid of political leaders like Carney and take over the media and really start to take back institutional power in Canada, one of the biggest and maybe the last step is we actually take over the political system as well. And we don't do it by force. We don't do it unlawfully. We don't use it doing violence, because that certainly is possible. You just like uninstall the corrupt regime and you force it into democracy. And the United States is known for that. And then everything collapses. But the final frontier of freeing Canada, other than getting rid of the king, the second to last final frontier will be to take back the political system. And that's hard in a country like Canada because most people are disengaged and they're like, I have to actually participate in democracy. Yes, you do. And it should be cool and you should be excited about that. So one thing you can do is get to know your member of parliament in your riding and just fiercely get involved, right? Just stick your nose in there and get involved. Who are they? What do they plan to do? Are they actually going to vote for the things you want? Because they will represent you in their voting when they sit there every day for the next 5 years and go, I want to vote for that. I don't believe in that. I want to initiate a government bill on this. We're going to get rid of the soji in the schools or whatever it is. You can be a part of that because you are in the populace. You are a citizen and you have theoretically an elected representative who will lawfully represent you. That's the basis of all proportional democracy and representative, elected governments. So the final thing is that these stories I've been writing called Vote Canada, I was designing a story this morning and I was like, this should be a magazine, like a digital magazine. It could be a printed magazine. This should be a digital magazine every month called Vote Canada. And people just think, oh, who's going to read that? But if it was cool and edgy, right? And like really well-known people on the covers, people who are really pushing the needle, I'm going to write the next 4 weeks of stories as Vote Canada stories as a magazine and see what people think. I can tell you two things about this. One is this would be very easy to finance. You can always finance things with politics. When I started speaking out, that's why my t-shirt business did so well, because people were actually supporting my political agenda, which was to expose, the fraud of the pandemic. Companies, charities, schools, individuals, wealthy individuals, they will all finance a political magazine in Canada if it's relevant, if it's compelling, if it truly represents, the fresh, fierce voice of the freedom movement as we move into and take over institutional power, a magazine will work. And this is always why disruptive moments in economic change, when there's big changes economically, new businesses, new ventures, new industries face big disruption because the culture is changing and everybody's looking around. Well, we're something that I can now believe in. A Vote Canada magazine will work financially. And it could work financially in the long run because we all, 40 million of us, all have a vested interest in how our governments work. It can cover 3 levels of voting: municipal, provincial, national. This thing could be really popular, really lucrative, and something that never existed before in Canada because we never had this level of affection for country. We never had a sense of, I don't think we've ever had a sense of pride and dignity in who we are as Canadians and what we actually believe in, what we've been fighting for 5 years than we have now. I'm 57 and, from the age of, 7 or 8, I was watching politics in my family home as well, all through the 70s and 80s and growing up as a teenager and going to Queen's. And I've studied the political system. That's what I studied at Queen's. Politics is my Bachelor of Arts. I have never seen a fervor like this, and it's only going to get bigger. And one of the main things we need to do, and I'll finish on this, it's so exciting, it's such a great day. Maybe I won't go to the gym because it's such a great day. No, always go to the gym. I'm on a workout month. Is that being relevant and fun and fresh and engaged and interested in politics is here to stay in Canada. And the more we promote that, the more we encourage everybody, get involved again, have a discussion, don't argue, don't be an asshole, don't lie and call people like rude names. Get people engaged, encourage people to be authentically engaged in political discourse. Get them to understand what is the body politic. And I'll define all these terms because a lot of Canadians are so unengaged. They don't even know what it means, like body politic. Do you know what that means? Political discourse. What does that mean, right? We have to have these things back. This is probably the number one way. It's not going to be government handouts. It's not going to be windmills and green energy programs. It's going to be respectful political discourse that gets our country back on track. And that can be monetized. So we have money for it, like through magazines and whatever, like a Vote Canada website and magazine, whatever. We can turn it into a business so it can sustain and pay for itself. That will push the needle on freedom, democracy, equality, justice more than anything else, to give Canadians the hope and the inspiration and the power to believe that their few hours a week when they choose to be engaged politically in our country, no matter what it is, school board or immigration, to stop the migrants or whatever, that Canadians will start to see the return on their investment of their time and their energy or their money, right? I want a better Canada. Put some time into political discourse. Commit to yourself to 2 hours a week. I mean, I'm committed basically 10 to 15 hours a week as a volunteer to promote political discourse. That's the way out of this. And finally now, 5 years into this scam, we have real institutional power. So please share this video. Please let me know what you think of a magazine, Vote Canada. I can set it up. I suggested that Arlene Dickinson could maybe even help, be a launch editor or something for the first issue, that we all work together, that don't shame anybody, just make sure everybody feels like they will be a part of the discussion because they're not going to be shamed out of it. That's one of the worst things that has happened to the freedom movement. We got a whole bunch of people who just spread lies about people like me. And so the average Canadian, the average mom that's sitting in the parking lot looking at her social media pages goes, there's no fucking way I'm wading into that, right? Who needs that? All you got to do is look at Susan Stanfield's reputation. Who would sacrifice their reputation in order to have an opinion? Right? Well, I did it because I'm brave and whatever. I just had to do it. It was so much more important than to do it. And I survived it. And millions of people appreciate and support the work I do. But the average person would never go to the lengths that someone like me is willing to go to, right? I'm a fighter. I'm that one. I'm that one that was given grit because I fight, and I've always fought and I always will fight. But we need to find mechanisms to get more mainstream cautious Canadians into this so they fight for us in ways that is appropriate and authentic to them. Women and moms and kids and everybody. So everybody starts to get engaged in political discourse in Canada. Today is a great day. I'm going to put this down into one of the best days in the history books if it is announced that Carnage is out March 31st, 2025. Remember this day. This is the day that freedom and equality and authentic power was taken back to the average Canadian because we got rid of a corrupt global banker, and we did it in less than 3 weeks. Okay, have a great day. Please share and comment as much as you can on the stories that I write. I read all the comments. I respond to everything as much as I can, unless you're some sort of unhinged troll. And I use them all to understand what is important for Canada so I can write more stories about that. Okay, have a great day. Thanks for sharing. Bye.